I do want to stream more, but it comes down to time. I feel that to do a good stream, you need to dedicate at least 2 hours to it. You've usually got to be able to plan for it in advance. You've got to make sure that you're actually wide awake and on the ball. Because if I did it at the end of my regular workday, I'd probably be exhausted and put on a really bad show. It also comes down to the fact that I can't do streams while we're uploading video footage and things like that, so there's other things to consider. And often at the end of the workday, I really want to be spending time with my family, not streaming. And I already work more than my schedule as it is, and I'm trying to get back on my schedule on a regular basis, and that's not really helping. But yeah, I do want to stream more. I love streaming Hearthstone. I think it's really enjoyable doing arena streams. I'd like to maybe stream some Path of Exile, because I've been enjoying that a lot lately. So that might work. I do want to do it. It's just time. And it's especially true, actually, during December that I really focus on YouTube videos, because that's when the best CPM is happening for YouTube videos. During January, the CPM tends to tank pretty badly on YouTube, so January might be a time when I actually do more streams, because it really is down to running the business, you know? It's about putting a stream out for maybe 20,000 people, or putting out a video for 200,000 people. It's obviously going to be the needs of the many on that one. But I do like streaming. I'd like to do more of it, so I will try. Yeah, I get that question a lot. It's rightfully so, though, because I definitely don't stream enough. Okay. Hey TB, after working for 8 years in another field, I am not liking how my life is going. I want to switch to making a game. Perhaps not the smartest of career moves, but it's a passion project. As someone who often deals with indie devs, do you have any feel for how easy it is to get into the indie game market? While I know not every indie game will be met with massive success, to me success would mean getting enough income to get by and keep going at it. That's not really the easiest thing to do, as much as I would like to say otherwise. It's... Right now, indie games are just so saturated. There's so many of them. Even getting on Steam right now isn't a guarantee, because Steam is putting out so many games a day. Let's fire up Steam and find out how many games came out over the last few days, shall we? Okay, so... Don't know... Oh, I hate Steam sometimes. These big icons, like, push the description away, so I can't even read when these games came out. It's such a terrible design. It's like, why would this be the case? There's actually a lot of wasted space on Steam, on the actual Steam client. I don't know if you... I mean, surely you've seen it, but... I'm just going to add the screen region here. I just want to show you how much wasted space there is. Like, at 1080p. Look at this crap. Look at it. That's how much wasted space there is. These two big-ass black things. And then you've got this right here. You see this? You see it? Jesus. Like... Why is the description so squashed in? Why is this laid out this way? Why can't I even move these things, you know? It would be nice to just be able to move this stuff around. I don't care about any of this. Can I just delete it? I like this at the top. I don't need this ad, or this ad, or this ad, or this ad. I don't need any of those. There's so much wasted space. And then you can't even read the release dates of some of these things. So I assume all of these came out on December the 13th. They did. I don't even know what uninitialized is, but that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And we will count the software, by the way, because you can't filter out software, which is dumb. You can filter out DLC, and then it's even more ridiculous. But you can't filter out software. I don't care about software. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's... Yeah, 9 games. 9 titles came out on December the 13th. Yeah. Then if you look at December the 12th, you go all the way down to here. This is like all December the 12th, give or take. So there's about 5 games here. And then on the 11th, there's, another 3. There's a lot of games coming out on Steam. And that's assuming you can get through green light. So at that point, you've got to ask yourself, well, even if I get on Steam, am I going to have enough exposure? Because there's so many other games coming out right now on Steam that make this ludicrously difficult to keep up with. And as a result... It's almost a case of saying, well, you should develop for mobile. But then you have the same problem, because getting noticed on mobile is really hard. There's all sorts of nonsense that you have to deal with over there. So that's a bit of a problem, too. More than a bit of a problem, a massive problem. So, honestly, making a game right now is risky. It really is. And it's almost like you have to develop a game for a trend that's going to happen in 6 months. Or a year. Because if you start developing like a crafting game right now, which is the current trend, by the time that your game comes out, the chances are we've moved on from that. Yeah? Will we stick with these roguelite mechanics for so long? We already have a ton of games doing that. We've also got a lot of good platformers doing it. So you're up against stuff like Spelunky or Risk of Rain if you're doing something like that. And by the time your game comes out, maybe nobody cares about those mechanics anymore and they've moved on. Game development is hella difficult. I don't think there's any real question about that. If you take time off to develop your own thing, I'd really say, look, you know, chalk this up to a life experience. Make sure you've saved up enough to live for a year, and that's hard enough as it is. And don't expect to make any money on it. That's really the only way to do it. I see so many people and indie devs just who mass quit their jobs. And then what happens? Well, their game doesn't sell. It's really, really unfortunate. And if you can't get on Steam, you might as well just count yourself out, because unless you're something like Minecraft or a big free-to-play game, you're not selling enough copies to break even. It's not happening. So, you know, I know it sounds depressing, but it's a really risky move. Really risky. And I think this is actually the wrong time to do it, because everyone's doing it right now. Indie development is larger than it's ever been, and that means there's more competition than there's ever been. So unless you have a really damn good idea, and do not say puzzle platformer, because I will push you down a well, I wouldn't do it. I really wouldn't. Do it in your spare time, yeah? Develop something basic in your spare time. Maybe it takes you a bit longer. Don't quit your job unless you have at least a year's worth of savings ready to cover your ass. Alright, let's move on, shall we? Hi, TV. I play a lot of video games, but I watch even more anime. I was wondering which animes you watched and liked. I don't watch too much of it. I watch very occasionally some minor stuff, like Attack on Titan. And other things like, say... what have I seen? If I go all the way back, I look at stuff like, say... Trigun and Berserk and... obviously Akira, because everyone's seen Akira. And Kenshin. And the really old Gaiva. And Hellsing as well. And that's kind of about it. I don't really watch too much of it. I watched all of Full Metal Alchemist and all of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood fairly recently. And I enjoyed that a lot. And then I watched Attack on Titan and I enjoyed that too. Admittedly, it's the slowest goddamn series ever. Jesus. It's taking from the school of... what is it? What's the name of that? Oh yeah, Dragon Ball Z. It's taken from the school of Dragon Ball Z when it comes to slow plot progression. It's like, there's so much exposition here. Just stop it. Stop it. This is not interesting. So, that I definitely had a problem with that. I actually found myself skipping forward in some bits because it'd be like a 10-minute piece of obnoxious character exposition that I didn't care about. But that's about it, really. I don't watch too much anime. I recently did a trial on Crunchyroll, and I found that was pretty good. But I don't even know if I would watch enough anime to justify it, because there's so many good series on Netflix that I'm watching right now. I'm watching Arrow, I'm watching Leverage. I pretty much finished Series 2 of Scandal, which was fantastic. And I'm waiting for Series 3 to come out on either Hulu Plus or Netflix. I know it's currently in production right now, so it won't come out until it's finished. I think Series 3 of Suits is just about finished. I want to go back to that as well. So, with all this really, really good American TV on right now, these serialized dramas and things like that, it's really hard for me to justify watching anime instead. Like, anime for me is kind of a filler, for the most part. I find all of these really great series that we have right now just dominate my very limited free time, so I wouldn't really want to spend too much time watching anime. But I do feel like going back and watching the Guyver again, because that was great. I fucking loved Guyver. So cool. Alright. Let's go back and have a look at some other stuff. See, now I'm hearing clicking. I don't know if you guys are. It's happening like every once in a while. I'm really confused as to why it is. Anyway, it seems to stop now. Have you ever considered going back to playing a game you're well known for, such as WoW, without telling your subscribers so you can just enjoy the game without being asked or forced to make videos on it? Okay, well, the thing is, like, I don't enjoy WoW, and I still don't enjoy WoW. So that's something that you need to consider there. And it's really important that people realize that it's not out of principle that I'm not going back to WoW, it's because I really don't like it anymore. Like, those hotkey-based MMOs are so dull to me. If I was going to go back to an MMO, I'd go back to one that had a decent combat system, like DDO, Guild Wars 2, Neverwinter. Yeah, I'd do that. What is with this clicking? I wonder if it's just Winamp being bad? I don't know. Hard to explain. Anyway, I'd go back to a game like that. And yeah, I probably wouldn't tell the subscribers, but it's really difficult to actually make a game and, well, make a game kind of my hobby, I suppose, and not make it my work. And every time it does become my work, it becomes difficult. It's why I'm actually really tempted not to make any videos on Path of Exile at all. Because yesterday, I played 7 hours straight of Path of Exile. The last time I played a game for 7 hours straight, I can't remember. I cannot remember. I don't know. I don't remember the last time I played a game that long. So that to me is like, wow, I think I might have found something to sink my time into, because lately I've been having a real problem finding a game like that. Like, every now and again it would be StarCraft 2, and it would work pretty well, and I'd be fairly happy with how that went down. But obviously StarCraft 2 is my job as well, so there's limited interest there. Hearthstone's my job now too, so I can't necessarily do anything with that. But yeah, Path of Exile right now seems pretty good. I'm interested in going back again to Star Trek Online, because, hey, it's Star Trek, and it's not a bad game. It's got its problems, but it's not a bad game. I was thinking of doing a bit of Neverwinter, but I'm thinking, well, should I play Guild Wars 2 on Neverwinter? Like, is there a reason to play Neverwinter over Guild Wars 2? Hard to say. But should I just go back to DDO, because that actually had some of the coolest stuff. Dungeon design in that game blows everything else out of the water. It's so great. I tried DC Universe again, and I found that I wasn't really digging it anymore. So that wasn't a thing for me. Don't get me wrong. I liked the game back then, but I think maybe it just feels a little clunky now. Back then, those mechanics were really interesting, but now there's games which do those mechanics better. So that's a bit of a concern to me. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, it'll probably end up being something like DDO. Because while, again, that game's kind of a bit dated, the thing to consider about DDO is that, really, there's not any game that's like that. It's got this weird pseudo-action-based combat system, which is actually just dice rolling. And it's got a big focus on story-driven, handcrafted dungeons, and just doing dungeons all the time. There's barely any outdoor stuff. It's almost all dungeons, and it's pretty fun. So if I were to go back to anything, it would probably be that. Alright. Let's continue, shall we? Okay, so that was one page of the 4 pages of questions I've currently got here, and then I'll start taking the ones in the chat. What would you say is the video that you're most proud of making? Tragedy in video game violence, I think, was probably the most eloquent when it came to getting my point across. And it was something that didn't necessarily work too well in other videos when I've tried to talk about video game violence, because I think I got a little bit angry whenever I talk about that stuff, because I'm just absolutely sick of my hobby kind of being blamed for stuff that it clearly isn't. And obviously by association, me as a gamer being some crazy rifle-wielding nutjob. So I think tragedy in video game violence was pretty good, and I think I got my points across. The only concern I think I have with that is I maybe got a little bit too conspiratorial towards the end, when I was pointing towards cable television networks and things like that as people that were to blame for it. I mean, maybe there was something to that, but I don't necessarily think that was true. So maybe that was just a little bit of speculation. So maybe I could have done without that. But yeah, I feel that came across really well. The sober video was okay too, but I mean, that was really... The thing to consider with the sober video was really that was part of a much larger sort of campaign, I suppose, whereby... Oh, I'm sorry, Impact is just smacking Tasia right now, and it's great to watch. Anyway, it was part of a bigger, larger campaign that a lot of people were involved in and responsible for, so I think my video helped a lot, but it certainly wasn't like the leading video or anything like that. And it was fairly well explained, but there were definitely, I think, videos that were better explained than that just did a better job in general than I did. So that's something to consider there. Alright, let's move on, shall we? Next one. I'm not reading out names here, because obviously, like, you know, if you want to ask, like, a personal question or anything like that, you don't necessarily want your name attached to it, but you know what your stuff is. What is this? 3 questions. Okay, I'm just going to do one of these. I'm going to pick the one that's probably the best. Ah, yeah, I think this one's the best. Since I'm not one of the I knew TB before we got big fanboy kind of guys, I don't know your exact history. Did you ever think about just stopping your YouTube career when views didn't come in? Or did you start with a decent amount of followers and never thought about dropping the whole YouTube thing? The thing is that when I was doing the whole YouTube thing as it was known, the thing about YouTube at that point was that I was very much doing it as a promotional tool for WoW Radio, and it was never as a career path. So once it became a career path, there's no way I would have ever considered stopping it, because that would make me stupid. Like, why? Why would I stop that? I would never would. That would actually be insane. So that's the story of it. Like, I didn't really have that many views, but it didn't matter at that point because I was just making occasional videos for WoW Radio promotion. Like stuff like That Retarded Horse was a promo for WoW Radio, if I recall correctly. It was either a promo for WoW Radio or for CynicalBrit.com when it was just my website. Or alternatively, I was looking towards stuff like... What else? Yeah, Chronicles of the Gold Farmer. And, like, just those little Wrath of the Lich King runs that we did. It was all promo for the website. So if it didn't get views, it didn't matter. Plus, we had an audience anyway. We could direct the WoW Radio audience to those videos. And then, of course, when everything blew up, it's like, no, I absolutely wouldn't. No way. I've never even considered over the past 3 years stopping this. It would be ridiculous. Like, I'm finally where I want to be in my life. Like, I'm doing what I want to do, when I want to do it, and I'm making the media that I've always wanted to make. So, there's really no way that I would consider stopping it at this point. So, yeah, that's how it is right now. That is how it is right now. Go on, get him. Get him. There's not... is there enough Ultralisks? Maybe? Maybe? Yeah, there's enough Ultras. Go on! Go on, get him! No, there's not enough Ultralisks. Damn it. 3-3 Marines are pretty good. Never mind, he's building new stuff. It's okay. Oh, Fungal. Sweet. Kill him, kill him, kill him. I'm currently watching Ace of Team Story Cup, and Impact, I think, is currently... Yeah, he's definitely winning right now against Tasia, which is amazing. Like, he's been our rookie player for the longest time, and he's actually finally having his breakout tournament right here. Tasia is down 50 supply. This is looking sick! Man, if Impact all killed Team Liquid, wow, that would be such a big confidence boost for him. That would be incredible. Alright. Sweet. Yeah, so that's that. Alright, let's do another one. Janelaeus. I recently found your YouTube video Addicted to Epics, where you spoke about video games and how you define addiction to them. I watched the whole presentation. I always thought you were probably a very good public speaker. My question is this: how do you prepare for a particular presentation? How did you prepare for that one? Have you done much of those before that? And which things have you helped to do to help train your verbal skills? Well, I mean, obviously I just prepared for that in general because I talked quite a lot about that on WoW Radio and things like that, so I was pretty experienced with dealing with that kind of stuff. But no, I didn't really prepare too much outside of that. I obviously just did my research, and I was looking to support a particular point, because at that point I just genuinely did not believe that there was any link whatsoever. And I kind of still don't, and I think it really comes down to the idea that there's a real difference between how you get addicted to something and whether or not something is genuinely addictive on its own, yeah? Whether it's just something that you can use as a tool to fuel your addictive personality, or whether it's actually something that's genuinely addictive and was built that way. So, that's the kind of thing that I was looking for there. And I usually found that there was no support. Like, there was literally zero support for the idea that games could actually be addictive in and of themselves. You actually had to have a previous condition to make it work. So, it really wasn't that hard to talk about it because, again, there was no scientific evidence to support the notion. Oh, that was beautiful. Sorry. Half Tasha's army just went up in Baneling hits. It was just gorgeous. I think we've got this. I really do. Very cool. God damn it, Impact. You deserve a raise for that. Gotta get him a good Christmas present, I think. Okay. So, yeah, I hadn't done too many before that. I think it was just all the WoW Radio stuff. I think that was actually my first really big public speaking anything. So, and I haven't really done too many since then. I've done panels, but they're not really the same thing. Like, they're a captive audience. They kind of come just to see you talk about anything, and you also have other people that back you up. So, as a solo presentation in front of a university audience, that was pretty tough. I don't think it was a very good presentation. Looking back on it, I feel my arguments could have been a hell of a lot better. But at that point, I was a lot younger, and I really didn't necessarily understand how things worked, so... That was kind of to be expected. This is a track and a half. This is on the Beyond Good and Evil soundtrack. So good. Have a listen to this. That was a great soundtrack. I'm just waiting for Beyond Good and Evil 2 to not have one of those. Oh, man. Alright. Next question. Here we go. Here's one. Have you ever been to Australia? No. If not, would you ever consider coming? I have a massive fear of flying. And Australia is about as far away as it gets. So, no, probably not. Like, I love the idea of Australia, but I want Australia to be much closer. Sorry, that impact just beat Tasia, so I'm like, yeah! That was so good. So good. Oh, man. No, no, I would not fly. I don't think I would anyway. It just... I can't even, like, even thinking about it makes me go cold and clammy. That's... Even doing, like, the 5-hour flights over to LA for stuff with Polaris is really hard for me. I absolutely dread it. I psych myself out for weeks beforehand. I get really, really stressed, and I can't focus on my work. So, I've got to do something about that. If there's a way for me to solve my flight anxiety, I don't know, maybe hypnotherapy, something, then maybe I'll consider it. But, like, right now, I don't want to fly out of the country. I don't. Even flying within the country is really bad. So, yeah. That's the reality right now. Alright. Let's continue, shall we? Okay, that's not actually a question, so never mind. Let's try this one. Do you think the not free-to-play real-time strategy genre will ever return if the PC grows more as a platform? Yeah, I don't see why not. The problem with real-time strategy is that to be truly competitive, you also have to have some mechanics that are really unfriendly to new players. So, like, StarCraft 2 is a really punishing game. It takes an awful lot of dexterity. Huge amounts of dexterity to actually pull that off. So I think that that's something that really puts a lot of people off. And when you try and simplify it, you kind of hurt the competitive side of it. So you've really got to think, well, am I making an RTS that's just kind of purely casual? Like, say, Company of Heroes. Company of Heroes 2, I'd say right now, is probably pretty casual. There was a bit of a competitive scene for the original Company of Heroes, but Relics never really had a huge one. Because they put a lot of mechanics in the game that are more for show than actual competitive nature of it. Like, it becomes a bit random. The thing about StarCraft 2 is there's really very little randomness in it. You constantly do the same amount of damage over and over again with the same units. So you know exactly the maths on everything. And then there's games where you just miss. Like, you can't miss unless it's with a spell in StarCraft 2. But you can miss in games like Supreme Commander. You can miss in games like Company of Heroes. And that's not a thing in competitive RTS. But I'm okay with that. Not every RTS has to be competitive. We could, you know, StarCraft 2 does a good job of fulfilling that niche. I would love to see more stuff like Dawn of War. I love Dawn of War. I love the original Company of Heroes. Company of Heroes 2 was pants, but the original Company of Heroes was just great. And I love Supreme Commander. I don't want to necessarily see more competitive RTS. I want to see more interesting RTS that has a good skirmish mode and a good campaign and really robust multiplayer. This is why I was really excited for Command & Conquer. And then, yeah. So maybe we'll get that back, but I don't see why it couldn't return, but they've really got to have another look at how they execute their mechanics. It's going to be fun to get into, and you've got to be able to play it as a casual player and still have fun with it, but it's still got to have a bit of a competitive side to it, because you want people to play multiplayer. And if it's not competitive in multiplayer, it's too random, people won't play it because it's bullshit. So, yeah, I think those are the things you've got to really resolve. I think Supreme Commander did a really good job of it. You could still have fun with Subcom. You could just go like 15-minute no rush and build some quick experimental unit and have fun with that. You know, it didn't have to be serious. It's difficult to do that in StarCraft 2 without either playing team games or without playing something on the arcade. Alright. Let us continue. Should a new YouTuber that is considering starting a new Let's Play game review channel be wary of the new content ID matching system? You absolutely should. No, especially with Let's Play. If you're doing Let's Play on console games, you are probably going to get ID matched to high heaven. Thankfully, a lot of these publishers are pushing back on that right now and getting stuff sorted out. Yeah. So, we'll see how that works out for them. Hopefully it does pretty well, but right now, I've got to say, if you're looking to get into this stuff and you're looking to get into it monetized, then it's kind of the same as getting into the indie game market right now. It's very unlikely you will actually succeed. There are huge amounts of channels doing exactly what you do. They've got a lot more experience. They've got better gear. So unless you have a really great personality and you can think of a unique way of presenting your stuff that isn't overly gimmicky, then it's going to be really hard for you to do that. It's especially hard if you're going to get into reviews. Like Let's Play, you can get by almost entirely on the strength of your personality. You don't actually have to be a good gamer. You don't have to have good equipment. If you're genuinely funny or you've got a really nice accent or something like that, or maybe you're just really good at a particular game, because you can get by on skill too. But the problem is there's a higher ceiling if you need to be... If you need to be really, really good, then you've got to be really good. Yeah? You've got to be sort of the level of... Let's take Crip, for example. Criparian, you know? One of the most successful YouTubers and streamers on the basis of being really, really good at games, because he focuses on one game and he just plays it to all hell, and he's really good at pretty much everything he plays. Yeah? But any kind of lower skill level than that, and it's really hard to be popular. Really is. I mean, if you take, for example, Northern Lion, you know, he's really, really good at what he does. And he's actually one of the top players when it comes to Spelunky and stuff like... I'm just trying to get his channel up, just so I can bring you stats here. One of the top players when it comes to Spelunky and stuff like, say, Binding of Isaac. That's kind of his main series, and he's still making that. He does stuff like Starbound and things like that, but he's really, really good at video games in general, I tend to find. Like, he's really good at Binding of Isaac, incredibly good at it. He's really incredibly good at Spelunky, to the point where he's getting, like, #1 in the world on some of those daily challenges, yeah? And views-wise, even then, he's not doing that well. His Binding of Isaac stuff is still pretty good, views-wise. I mean, considering he's got, like, over 600 episodes of it, he's made a decent amount of money out of that game. But if you look at his Spelunky stuff, it's like 25,000 views, things like that. Can you live on that number of views? Yes. If you're producing like 3 videos a day, if you're getting that many, yes, you can. How many is he getting in a month? I actually have no idea, but I could pull that up. He's probably on 1 mil, 2 mil. Have a look on Social Blade, actually. That's a good way to tell. Their stats are usually pretty good. So let's have a look at Social Blade. I want to know how many views Northern Lion is getting in a month. And then I will tell you whether or not you can kind of sustain on those bases. And that's kind of really what you need to check for the most part. Okay. How many views a month are you getting, Northern Lion? Total views per month. Oh, he's actually getting way more than that. He produces a lot of content, so he's doing pretty well here. He's getting anywhere between about 3 to 5 million views a month. Yeah. And that's pretty good for him. But he makes a lot of content. Huge amount. Like, he released 5 videos yesterday. 5. And then the day before, he also released 5. And 5. And 5. So he produces, like, almost 3 times the number of videos that I regularly do. Has my camera just gone blurry? What the hell? There we go. Sorted. So just bear that in mind. You know? Think about that. His daily views... I should be able to bring those up. Where are those on Social Blade? Apparently they're not. So... I guess I could just do the mathematics on that one. Because that's what you need to be aiming for, like, to make a decent living on YouTube, in my opinion. So, it's about 4 million. Divided by 30. You know, you've got to be aiming for over 100,000 views a day. Just consider that, you know, if you want to go down the monetized route. I think that doing YouTube channels is pretty good for those at university that have a bit of off time and can kind of do it as a hobby. Dedicating your whole life to that, maybe not so much. But yeah, you gotta watch out for that content ID. Best thing to do? Focus on some indie titles, focus on games that have blanket agreements. Blanket agreements. They're safe. But also bear in mind that those are often oversaturated.